Good afternoon. Good afternoon, everyone. Myself, Dr. Vinutha P. Kunderi, Department of English, KSOU, Mysuru. So today I am here to talk about English poetry first semester and the courses, UG courses I'll be meeting. I'll be talking about BA, BCom, BSc English Language Course 1, Block 1. Block 2 consists of prose and Block 3 consists of grammar. Today I'll be talking about poetry. First block consists of 4 units. 4 units, each unit speaks about a poet of different era or age. Okay, so first unit speaks about William Shakespeare. 2 sonnets are prescribed for you. First sonnet is sonnet number 55, titled as Not Marble Nor the Glided Monuments. Second sonnet 116, titled as Let Me Not to the Marriage of True Minds. So William Shakespeare, as you know, he belongs to Elizabethan age. Elizabethan age is known for its playwrights, and William Shakespeare is also the finest playwright of Elizabethan age. But for you, these 2 sonnets are being prescribed, which strictly speaks about his friend, unknown friend of Shakespeare, where his name is not revealed, but he speaks, the poet speaks about his existence, the poet speaks about his love for his friend. Okay, and the second unit, it's about Thomas Gray's poem, Elegy Written in a Country Churchyard. Thomas Gray, as you know, he belongs to the age of transition. Age of transition, which I mean to say that there is a shift in the ideology of the period, because age of transition, it speaks about the age, speaks about mortality, age speaks about the essence, values of humans. And unit number 3 as discusses William Wordsworth.
ಕರ್ನಾಟಕ ರಾಜ್ಯ ಮುಕ್ತ ವಿಶ್ವವಿದ್ಯಾನಿಲಯವು ಉನ್ನತ ಶಿಕ್ಷಣ ಎಲ್ಲರಿಗೂ ಎಲ್ಲೆಡೆ ಎಂಬ ಘೋಷವಾಕ್ಯದೊಂದಿಗೆ ಕಾರ್ಯನಿರ್ವಹಿಸುತ್ತಿದ್ದು, ಮುಕ್ತ ಗಂಗೋತ್ರಿಯ ಕಾವೇರಿ ಸಭಾಂಗಣದಲ್ಲಿ ಅಂತಾರಾಷ್ಟ್ರೀಯ ಮಹಿಳಾ ದಿನಾಚರಣೆ, ವಿವೇಕಾನಂದರ ಜಯಂತಿ, ಸುಭಾಷ್ ಚಂದ್ರ ಬೋಸರ ಜಯಂತಿಯ ಪ್ರಯುಕ್ತ ವಿಶೇಷ ಉಪನ್ಯಾಸ ಮತ್ತು ಪ್ರಬಂಧ ಸ್ಪರ್ಧೆ, ಪರಂಪರೆ ಕೂಟದ ಮೂಲಕ ವಿದ್ಯಾರ್ಥಿಗಳಿಗೆ ಐತಿಹಾಸಿಕ ದೇವಸ್ಥಾನಗಳ ಭೇಟಿ, ನ್ಯಾಷನಲ್ ಸೈನ್ಸ್ ಡೇ, ಗಣರಾಜ್ಯೋತ್ಸವ, ಕರ್ನಾಟಕ ರಾಜ್ಯ ಮುಕ್ತ ವಿಶ್ವವಿದ್ಯಾನಿಲಯದ ರೇಡಿಯೋ ಮೂಲಕ ಪಾಠ ಪ್ರವಚನಗಳನ್ನು ತಲುಪಿಸುವಲ್ಲಿ ಪ್ರಮುಖ ಪಾತ್ರ ವಹಿಸುತ್ತಿದೆ. ಮಹಿಳಾ ಉದ್ಯಮಿಗಳಿಗೆ ಉತ್ತೇಜಿಸುವ ನಿಟ್ಟಿನಲ್ಲಿ 1 ದಿನದ ಕರಕುಶಲ ಮೇಳ, ಮೈಸೂರು ಅರಮನೆ ಮಂಡಳಿಯೊಂದಿಗೆ 1 ವಾರದ ತರಬೇತಿ ಕಾರ್ಯಾಗಾರ, ಮಹಾತ್ಮ ಗಾಂಧೀಜಿಯವರ ಜಯಂತಿಯ ಪ್ರಯುಕ್ತ ವಿಶೇಷ ಉಪನ್ಯಾಸ, ಖಾದಿ.
3 discusses William Wordsworth's 2 major and important poems, that is The Daffodils and Upon Westminster Bridge. You know very well that William Wordsworth belonged to the age of romantics. Romantic poets speak about the importance of nature. William Wordsworth himself is considered as nature poet. He has a connection, he has a godly connection towards nature, and he sees happiness, solace, solitude, blissfulness in connection with nature. Unit 4 discusses Alfred Tennyson's poem Ulysses. Alfred Tennyson belonged to Victorian period. In this poem, he speaks about Ulysses. He is a great adventurer in the history, and you have heard the name of Ulysses in Trojan War. In this poem Ulysses, he speaks about his urge to go on a voyage, and he compares himself with his own son Telemachus, who has a different personality altogether than comparing to Ulysses. Ulysses wants to be an adventurer, whereas Telemachus is considered he wants to be a hardened ruler. Telemachus has a different ideology when compared to Ulysses, but Ulysses, he calls for the warriors to go on a voyage. He calls for his supporters to go on an adventurous trip where he want to explore. He want to find a new world. He doesn't want to be a stagnant. He doesn't want to be a rusted iron. He says that a person who lives a stagnant life becomes rustic, and where the material which is unable, the material which is not meant, not useful. Henceforth, he speaks to the readers that everyone has to be adventurous rather than living in a comfort zone. Getting back to William Shakespeare, two sonnets, I'll give you an important aspects what are all discussed in a particular sonnet or a poem one after the other. Okay. To begin with, William Shakespeare poetry, not marble nor the glided monument. What has Shakespeare trying to say in this poem? Sonnet, sorry. So sonnet, as you know, it consists of 14 lines. 14-line sonnet is divided into 3 quatrains and a couplet. Every quatrain has a message to say, has an important aspect to discuss. When come to this sonnet, as the title, as the first line of the sonnet says, not marble nor the glided monument, speaks, refer to a man, because Elizabethan age is the age of monarchy, where people, they built monuments, they construct they construct monuments out of marbles, thinking that it will last for longer time. But Shakespeare has a different outlook. He says that yes, people construct monuments for their own glory, just to remember the person of importance. Whereas these monuments, as the age passes, it will not long last. Okay. So why such thing happens? Time has, according to Shakespeare, he says that time has all the power to do this changes, because as the time passes, the monument will get dismantled, it will get dirty, the stones get broken. Henceforth, the monuments, any monuments which are of importance, which remembers, which takes the image of remembrance, memory, it will not last for longer time. So Shakespeare says that time has all the power. And he also proceeding to the next level, Shakespeare has other argument as well. He says that more than time, the war and fire, these are the two strongest elements which has the ability to destroy any valuable things or any strong things for that matter. Whereas war is wasteful. Okay, he says that war is wasteful. It throws down many statues and buildings, and fire is also has the ability to disfigure any monument for that matter. So based on this argument, Shakespeare comes to a standstill argument, saying that time has power, because monument, even though it lasts for a longer time, this natural energy, the nature's energy has power to has all the power to destroy thing, and even death has power to take away the person or the any living thing, take away from the nature for longest time, and it has the ability to destroy. Whereas Shakespeare thinks that he wants to immortalize any person, for that matter his friend. He wants to immortalize his friend through the lines of poetry. So he is immortalizing his friend through the sonnet, discussing about him. He is signifying him. He is talking about all the majestic qualities of time as well as his friend. He henceforth, the sonnet concludes that on the judgment day, the day of doom, when his friend attains death, even after the death, his friend want to reach the area of the level of praise. Okay, henceforth he says all this happens, all this 2 minutes.
ಸ್ವಾತಂತ್ರ್ಯ ಸಂಗ್ರಾಮದಲ್ಲಿ ಹುತಾತ್ಮರಾದವರ ಸ್ಮರಣಾರ್ಥ, ಗೌರವ ನಮನ, ಯುವ ಜನತೆಯ
Henceforth, in the concluding lines of the sonnet couplet, he says that Shakespeare wants to he wants to immortalize his friend through the verse and in the eyes of all lovers. So that's how his 55th sonnet ends. Coming to the next sonnet of his, that is 116th, let me note to the marriage of true minds. So here in the previous sonnet he spoke more about love into a relationship, into when compared to the monuments which is made of marbles, love or poetry has more power to hold back any living object or beloved person. In this sonnet, Shakespeare speaks about the love relationship between two like-minded, true minds. He calls it as a true minds. True minds means they're two souls which are meant to be together forever. He says that a mind which changes, which molds according to the whims and fancies or the external forces or external emotions influencing to change the feeling and emotions of a person, is not a true love according to Shakespeare. Henceforth, he says that there is a beautiful line in the sonnet where you can see, I quote, "Love is not love which alters when it alterations finds." So this line clearly says that any love for that matter, if the alterations happen for any reason for that matter, alterations are done, if in any case, that is not true love. Love is something platonic. Love is something divine. It should be accepted as and when it is possible. So, based on this idea, Shakespeare discusses the concept of love, the eternity of love, the immortality of love through this sonnet. Further, moving ahead, he says that any marriage for that matter, love has to be a binding wire to any two souls to get into the marriage. So when we say that there is a beautiful union of two souls, the love exists. The love of two people is beyond any obstacles, is considered to be true love. So any influences of nature, any influences of emotions should not shatter the love between two entities. And to make love, any people have to have two qualities. That is, a person has to have strength and the person has to have beauty. These two qualities are blessed for the youth. Who is the youth in the sonnet he is referring to? It is none other than the poet's friend, that is unknown friend. unknown friend, which I mean to say that he doesn't have a name. But Shakespeare repeatedly always refer the beautiful lines to his friend. These factors that generate love vanish in course of time. Love itself remains undying. And love must be a compass for any souls to go around, to be free and content. Time cannot destroy true love. Love will stay on even to the edge of doom. So till the last day of any man's life, love is the only hope which make him to live for a longer time. Coming to the end of the sonnet, a poet gives a personal note which he says that he is confident of his claim that love is a permanent feeling and poetry immortalizes it. As love, as marriage, as true minds are something that immortalizes, even his friend who desires to prove himself, if he claims are proved against him, it is as good as saying that he has not written any poem and no one has ever loved in this world. The poet says, if love is not platonic, if love is not the ultimate thing, believe that these feeling of love is not permanent, and the lines which I am telling about the love is not said itself. So that's how that is how he treat love as an important entity to live with. Moving on to the next poet, that is Thomas Gray's Elegy, written in a country churchyard. As I told you before, Thomas Gray is a poet who lived in the period of transition from the neoclassical age to romantic age. Neoclassical age, there is what is so important about the shift from neoclassical to romantic age is that people started thinking about the importance of life. What is the essence of life? They started getting in the search of the meaning of life. Even Thomas Gray has started thinking about life and death in this poem, Elegy, written in a country churchyard. Elegy is nothing but a poem written to lament for the death. So the poem is written in a very sober and a reflective mode. Thomas Gray has brought out his personal opinions about life and death. So what is so important about life and death? What are the things which man thinks life is a serious business? Now the poem begins where poet is standing in a daylight, where in a daylight which is of almost darkness. It is getting night, and he is looking at the churchyard, where in a churchyard, as you know, there are graveyards, there are tombs which represent the people who have passed away, our ancestors. It brings the memory of our ancestors. There is a churchyard which speaks about the forefathers of the hamlet who are resting. And Thomas Gray says that people who are dead and lying in the graveyards, they cannot come out. They are resting in peace. No family lived cannot bring them back to life, or no other powerful thing which influences to get them back to life. So in that case, why man is so egoistic? Why man is so feel supremacy about him? He takes the example of forefathers of Hamlet. You know, you must be hearing, you must have heard about Hamlet. William Shakespeare has written a tragic drama about Hamlet. So, by referring to the king, Hamlet, the character Hamlet, he is trying to bring a drastic, trying to throw light on the death of a commoner as well as a monarch. Hamlet is a monarch, Hamlet is a king. So, what is so different about it? A man who has a glorious life, who has killed many people, who has enjoyed money, who has seen power, who has exercised power, also even after that person dies, he also has a similar graveyard than a common man. Even though a common man doesn't have any glory, as the life of prestige, doesn't have the life of any ornamentation, still the death of a commoner will remain the same. A struggling person, he struggles, he gets everything in life and he dies in a very hard end. And people who are of known, they miss so many things in life. They just simply struggle when they are living and the death remains the same. Whereas the death of a commoner doesn't have any heights of glory or any downfall of any pain. So they'll have a plain, simple life and even their death seems to be simple. So through this elegy, Thomas Gray is trying to say that men live in the heights of ego and their death remains the same, whether it is a rich person or whether it is a poor person. So man, instead of struggling and taking their life of struggle for no reasons, they could have left a simple and plain life and live happily. So here Thomas Gray, standing in front of a churchyard, he speaks about the death, importance of death, and looking at the death, man has to remember how he needs to lead his life when he lives in the present movement or present life. So at the end of what is the conclusion of this poem is to say that man has to remember the importance of life and importance of death as well. Moving to William Wordsworth poems, two important poems. One is Daffodils and Upon Westminster Bridge. William Wordsworth is a great romantic poet. Romantic poets always get in connection with nature. Nature brings them happiness, solace, blissfulness, solitude, and William Wordsworth always believed that nature teaches man how to be happy. Okay, in Thomas Gray elegy, you have understood that how man has to treat life as well as death. Looking at the death, he is trying to teach man how a man should lead his life in spite of having a struggle life filled with ego and getting no outcome is less of living. Okay, life we need to live. Living is finding joy in what we do, finding joy in what we say, find joy in where we spend in time in our lives. So Daffodils is one such poem. William Wordsworth speaks about how memory or how any landscape of nature brings joy in the memory of any person. So Daffodil is one such poem. Daffodils is written 2 years after he had visited the lake village. Okay, in 1802 he had visited a place. He has seen a place where the area was filled with daffodils. Daffodils is a beautiful yellow flower. You can just Google it in internet and you can see how beautiful the flower is. It has a golden yellow color. And in 2004 he wrote the poem in memory of his visit to Lake Village with his own sister Dorothy. Okay, so he has described how he embraced the moment of his visit to the place Lake District. He is surprised by the joy of his visit to the place. At the movement, at the beginning of the poem, he looks at the landscape which is filled with beautiful daffodils, and he felt very happy. Okay, he felt very happy, and he compares him to be a part of nature. He says that I am cloud moving around looking at the beautiful golden daffodils, and I am embracing it. I am feeling joy by looking at the daffodils which are swinging their heads for the smooth wind which is passing on the heads of the petals or the flower, which seems to be very beautiful in the eyes of onlookers. It has a very embracing, beautiful image in the minds. This image has been remembered, imprinted in the memory of William Wordsworth. He says further that when I am in bored movement, when I don't have any work, I don't feel like doing anything, when I lie down on the bed, these beautiful daffodils I recall the images of these daffodils, and this brings joy and surprise in my memory. So William Wordsworth is trying to say that anything for that matter, any part and parcel, any practices of nature, any connection with nature, any time spent with nature is to be embraced. And nature always, the image, the memory, even getting in connection with nature always makes man happy. So William Wordsworth speaks about his own experiences in Lake District along with his sister Dorothy, and he says that I found solace in visit to that. Moving on, there is an important line in the daffodils. He says that I gazed and gazed, but little thought what wealth the shore to me have brought. So this line is very important. Just now I said that William Wordsworth is so excited to look at the flowers, the daffodils, and he says that this has brought wealth in me. What is the wealth here? What wealth he is referring to? Wealth is nothing but the happiness which he has acquired after looking at the daffodils, and the memory also brings him happy. So this is the important aspect which he discusses. Moving on to the second poem of William Wordsworth, that is Upon Westminster Bridge. This is a small poem which speaks about the city of London. When compared to many writers, many poets have spoken about the city of London in a different way, in a different manner. For some writers, Victorian writers, the city of London is a city of aristocratics, city of snobbery, city of experiments, city of newness. Whereas for William Wordsworth, it is a city of plain, calm, productive, developed, grandeur, everlasting, etc. and etc. So he speaks about the city of London in Upon the Westminster Bridge poem. So what all he speaks about? He speaks about the grand sunrise, sunlight. The city is completely plain and silent. It doesn't have much of hustle. If the city is hustle, if the city is busy, which means to say that it doesn't have the natural entities in it. Whereas the London of William Shakespeare has all the nature essence of a nature, which is which is beautiful, impressive, and it is not, the image of London doesn't bring dullness to the soul. The city, he says that the city of London has clothed itself in a bright light of the morning as a garment. So this is a beautiful comparison, bringing the saying that the garment, as though we wear the garment over our to cover our body, the light, the sunlight has covered the city of London in a very embracing manner. Okay, this image, this thought says that the city is not hustle, the city is not very hopscotch, where we don't feel it has a very negative activities. Not negative, I mean to say that busy. Okay, so there is also ships is engaged there, ships are there, towers are there, domes, theatres, churches are also part and parcel of the city. So the city of London consists of anything and everything that is open for anyone to lead their life in the city of London. And when there is no hustle, as I said before, the city of London, which William Wordsworth speaking, is not busy, which means to say that the air, the nature is so perfect for the man to live in. It is free from smoke, it's free from any disasters which disturbs the nature. And even the city has a beautiful river, the river of Thames, that flows freely without any disturbances, without any activities negative, rather activities of boats, ships and sailors are also there. So here Wordsworth says that if all the nature's element exist, where the God is also happy in the city, and it has blessed the city with all the nature's glory. And the fourth unit speaks about Tennyson's Ulysses. So in the introduction I said Ulysses is a great adventurer. In this poem, Tennyson speaks about Ulysses, who speaks about his urge to go on an adventure. In the previous activity of Ulysses, he had visited city of Ithaca. He lives in Ithaca, is a king of Ithaca. When he stays, he had been on a voyage. You please read other poem, that is the Lotus Eaters, where the Ulysses had visited. He had gone on a war, Trojan War, but he couldn't reach the city in time, and through the sea route he had landed up in a other island, where he had to stay there for a longer time before reaching his own city. And there, when looking at the poem, the Lotus Eater, you can understand how Ulysses struggled to reach his city. So whereas this poem in Lord Tennyson's Ulysses shows that he has an urge to go on an adventure, and his personality is one such that he doesn't want to waste his life leading a rusted life. Okay, he doesn't want to lead a rusted life. He says that a person who stagnant, who stays in the same old routine, mundane life, is not progressive. He doesn't want to lead such a life. He wants to be a free man, where he wants to look at other nature, other side of life, and he wants to have a courageous life. He doesn't want to sit idly, and he doesn't want to have a simple life. He wants a tough life, he wants an adventurous life, he wants through adventure, he wants to experience newness in it. And he says that I am such, and Telemachus has a different personality altogether. Telemachus is he is his own son. Okay, Telemachus is like a very ardent school student, just like a school kid. He has his own fixed duty. He has his own fixed things to be done. He want to be a ruler. He want to serve his nation. He want to fulfill the duties of a great ruler. But whereas his own father Ulysses is not such person. So the entire poem of Ulysses speaks about the different personalities, different persons altogether, that is Ulysses and Telemachus, how different they are and how ambition has engraved. Two people are ambitious, but they have a different role to play. They have a different ambitions, they different ideologies altogether. So this comparison ultimately brings gives you a gist about how people are different, and even though they are right or wrong, they have a different ideologies altogether. And in the final lines of Ulysses, Ulysses says that he gives a call to all the fellow mariners, all his fellow servants, all his fellow soldiers to go on a voyage, go on a expedition, and he says that I might be old after I come back from Trojan War, whereas I am not old enough. I have not lost any energy to go on the next expedition. I have left with more energy to explore, and he calls for his fellow mariners to go on the voyage once again. That's how the poem is concluded. So in all these four poems which I discussed, there are certain important factors you need to concentrate on. That is, what are the important questions usually asked in examinations. You need to concentrate on the thematic aspects of each of the poem which I discussed now. In Shakespeare sonnet, love and time, the tyranny of time and the immortality of love are the important themes in Shakespeare sonnets, two of the sonnets as well. And even Thomas Gray speaks about the complexities of life. What are the two important complexities, that is life and death. Between that, man has to struggle between these two ends. So Thomas Gray poem Elegy, written in a country churchyard, the poet speaks about death and love, how death of a commoner or a death of a high person or aristocratic is no different from any others. And William Wordsworth poem, two of the poems, that is Daffodils and Upon Westminster Bridge, nature's influence on man's life is the important theme. Okay, nature is not simply a nature where it consists of tree, rivers, birds, animals, whereas it also teaches man how to lead a plain life, how to lead a simple life, and how to get teachings, how do we teach ourselves from the nature. Nature always give solace, and man has to have his own connections with nature. Going back to the nature is itself a journey for a man to understand life in a very better manner. And coming to Alfred Tennyson's Ulysses poem speaks about how man has to make his life interesting, and man has to have his own aspirations in life. Man has to be very ambitious. Man has to lead their life on their own terms. Okay, it might the road might not be easy. Road might not be very convincing, but a man has to fulfill his ambition. He has to lead a tough life, to lead accordingly. Okay, so all these 4 poets are important for examination. Kindly read the poems as well as the materials which is provided by the KSOU University. I hope you have already read the study materials provided by the Department of English, and all the very best for your exam.